2g squared plus 32 equals 0. We got to get rid of the plus 32, so we'll subtract 32. We'll have 2g squared equals negative 32. We don't want the 2 there. That means 2 times g squared, so we'll divide. Okay, not a big deal. G squared equals negative 32 divided by 2 is negative 16. And then now we have g squared by itself, so we'll square root both sides. Square root of negative 16. Now, if I said what times itself gives you 16, you would say probably 4. And then you'd be like, oh, well, negative 4 too. But if you did 4 times 4, you get positive 16. If you did negative 4 times negative 4, you also get positive 16. We can't square root negative numbers yet. You will in Algebra 2. Using the real number system, you cannot square root negative numbers. So if you ever get to that step at the end, you just write no solution. In Algebra 2, for those kind of problems, we use the imaginary number system, the complex number system. Don't worry about that right now. Let's try out some of these from the practice. You're going to have to finish all of them, but let's try out some of the harder ones. I wanted to do something like number 15. Yeah, 15. So you might think initially, well, we have to get rid of the 4, and that's true. So we'll divide by 4. Now you can do 25 divided by 4 and get 6.25. I would suggest just leaving it as a fraction. So we'd have r squared equals 25 over 4. And you can't simplify 25 over 4. There's nothing they have in common except for 1. But that's fine. We have r squared, so let's square root it. Now the nice thing is, when you square root a fraction, you just square root each part. So like the square root of 25, what times itself gives you 25? 5. Then we have to square root 4. What times itself gives you 4? 2. So the square root of 25 over 4 is 5 over 2. But don't forget, it can also be the negative version of that. And when you make a fraction negative, you just throw the negative up top or out in the front middle. You don't make both parts negative. Like you wouldn't write negative 5 over negative 2, because then the negatives would cancel out. And you don't want that. Let's try one more. Number 18 is kind of strange. So the 27 there, I see the minus afterwards, and some people would say, well, then let's add it. But 27 plus 27 would be 54, and we're trying to get rid of the 27. So the minus actually belongs with the y squared. That's the tricky part. So if we're getting rid of positive 27, we would subtract 27. Those would cancel. We'd have negative y squared, which again means negative 1 y squared equals negative 27. And then we could divide by negative 1, which would give us y squared equals negative 27 divided by negative 1 is positive 27. Now we can do our step of square rooting. Now 27 is not a perfect square. 25 is a perfect square, so that's 5 times 5. I don't know the decimal for 27. Let me get a calculator real quick. Square root 27. 5.196. So we'll call it 5.2. But also, make sure you sneeze. And also remember we have negative 5.2 as an option. All right, you got this. You can do these. We did the toughies.